Allen 911, you calling about the shooting?
Active shooter, Covenant Presbyterian Church.
Uvalde County 911.
Yes, there was just an accident right here behind Rob's school. Oh my God, they're running. I don't know why. Oh my God, he has to die.
I think everyone in America has started to realize that this isn't going to go away. More and more people have a story in which they're tied to some sort of active shooter event.
Pick-down 911, what's the location of the emergency?
Sandy Hook School. I think there's somebody shooting in here.
My son Daniel was murdered in the Sandy Hook School shooting when he was 7 years old. It's worse than your own death in my eyes.
There can't be rhetoric. It has to be, how do we keep our children safe in schools? Not Democrat kids, not Republican kids, our kids.
All right, we've got help on the way.
In June of 2022, Congress passed what has been called a landmark piece of legislation on guns. This was the first time in nearly 30 years that a bill of this size and scope on guns had passed both chambers. And it was prompted by the killing of 19 children and 2 adults.
I'm here on this floor to beg, to literally get down on my hands and knees and beg my colleagues. Find a path forward here. When Uvalde happened, it was a tipping point.
I immediately called the Uvalde sheriff and I go, hey, is this thing real? He goes, it's absolutely real, Tony. I have 6 children, and I wanted to make sure I collected my thoughts, my emotions, so that way when I showed up in Uvalde, I was ready to go and be the leader for the community.
Within about 48 hours of Uvalde, Senator Sinema, myself, Senator Cornyn, Senator Tillis had our first meeting.
And just 1 month after the shooting in Uvalde, the bipartisan Safer Communities Act saw final passage, a quick turnaround for an often divided and stalled Congress.
The motion to concur with an amendment is agreed to.
Here's what's included in the act. It created new background checks for buyers under 21. It sets aside millions of dollars for states to establish red flag laws. It helps prevent those who have been convicted of domestic violence from purchasing a gun, and the act provides money for mental health and school safety programs. It also defines federal licensing requirements for gun sellers. When it comes to the Safer Communities Act, what do you think is working right now, a year later?
Well, there's no doubt that that bill is saving lives. We have stopped over 200 young individuals in crisis from getting rifles, often assault rifles, under the provisions of this bill. Murders, gun violence rates are down in 2023 compared to 2022.
While current figures suggest there could be impact felt from the act, the effectiveness of some of the specific provisions are less easy to measure, such as the part of the law that gives money to states only if they choose to set up red flag laws that allow courts to remove guns from those who may be a danger to themselves or others. To date, 21 states have enacted such laws. When you look at some of the recent mass killings, a lot of the shooters did have a history of mental illness and were able to legally buy guns, but they were in states that didn't have red flag laws. So is that an area that Congress could drill into and potentially strengthen and make federal law?
I've always thought that red flag laws were better passed at the state level. If you passed a federal red flag law, then individual family members would have to go into the federal courts to get that order, which I just think is more difficult than the state courts.
And there may be more work to do with the $13 billion in funding allocated for mental health intervention programs.
I view it as the largest investment in mental health in our nation's history. The problem I'm seeing is that dollars in Washington aren't making it down to our communities. It's getting stuck, and it happens all the time. These grants that we put out, they're so difficult to fill out. There's no way a rural community like Uvalde is going to be able to successfully fill out these grants unless they get help.
Throughout 2023, there have been a lot of mass killings, and it seems like we're headed toward setting a record of sorts. Are there parts of the bill you think should be strengthened, and how would you address that?
I would love to ban assault weapons, and we don't have that support right now in the Congress. The most obvious place to go next is expanding the number of background checks that are done in this country.
Representative Gonzalez, one of 14 House Republicans to vote for the gun bill and later censured by the Texas Republican State Party, in part because of that vote, agrees that strengthening background checks may be the next plausible step.
1, they work. 2, it's not going to infringe on the Constitution. And 3, it helps identify these problems before they become problems.
Any given week on Capitol Hill, it's not hard to find a press conference.
The bipartisan nature of this effort reflects the consistent and broad support that this policy has amongst the American public.
A floor speech or meeting on the issue of guns.
It is likely that at this moment, the next mass shooter is planning their shooting. What will this chamber do about it?
I hope that we can find some compromise in the next year and a half, but right now I don't have a lot of Republicans beating down my door, to be honest with you. This issue probably will have to go to the electorate. In 2024, people will get to make a decision. If we do nothing in these 2 years on guns, am I okay with that?
What do we want? Gun control! We want it now! What do we want? Gun control!
How many times have you been here since the tragedy happened?
Many. In those first early days for me, in the aftermath of the shooting, first of all, probably didn't have any business being out in public at all.
Daniel was a first grader at Sandy Hook Elementary School. Our sweet 7-year-old Daniel.
As one of the co-founders of Sandy Hook Promise, Mark Barden was brought in to help the bipartisan group of lawmakers craft parts of the act. He says overall, he's noticed a shift that didn't exist when he first started coming to Capitol Hill.
Gun violence prevention or gun safety was to be avoided for legislators. It was a third rail issue. It's now a winning issue. It's taken a long time, and I understand that's just how it works in Washington, that everything takes a long time, and it can be frustrating, but the key is persistence and to not give up, and I don't intend to give up.